Hey there, welcome. I'm Katie Bennett, and I am the Training Communications Director here at the International Leadership Institute. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited because today we are joined by my pastor, Kevin Rivers. So, Kevin, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Kevin has been instrumental in seeing a great transition for our church from leadership that has been 20, 30 years at the
Mm.
church, seen some incredible growth. And Kevin was with Midway for 7 years, and then he got called away to a church in Indiana for 6 years. And then God did something amazing and called
Yeah.
him back to Midway for the past 2 years. So I've been so grateful to have you part of our staff at Midway, part of my life, and just seeing all the things that I've been able to witness firsthand in your leadership and life have really impacted me. So I'm so glad to have him here today.
Honored.
We are going to talk about a topic for one of our core values, family priority. So I've witnessed this personally and seen you demonstrate family priority from both a friendship and a staff and a leadership at Midway. So today I want to jump into family priority
Let's do it.
and how that affects you personally, ministry, and all the things. And then all those people that are listening out there can take away some of those things as well. So, family priority. Again, like I said, this is one of our ILI 8 core values for our History Makers leadership training. And it is something that really shapes a lot of our ministry, whether we know it or not.
Hmm.
And over again, what we hear leaders say from all over the world when they are equipped at a training event, we constantly hear leaders who've been leaders established for decades even
Hmm.
tell us that they didn't know that family should have been a priority, that
Hmm.
they didn't realize that God was calling them to honor their family.
Hmm.
So I see it as being such a crucial part of leadership. And so today I want to start by just talking about how family priority has impacted your life and how you see that personally in your life.
Yeah, well, first of all, honored to be here. Love what ILI is doing. Love what you guys are doing. Love that there are core values like family priority that make us who we are. And in today's world, for me, I have been blessed to see so many great pictures of what that can look like in a good way. In my own life, I've blessed with a great set of parents that displayed what family can look like and mean. But then I think all of us can relate with knowing what it looks like when a leader in our life, particularly, doesn't adhere to family priority, and it crumbles ministries, it crumbles churches, and it rips life to shreds at many times. So I've seen both. For me personally, just watching even just the fabric of family and the definitions of family is such a divisive thing in
Yeah.
today's world, I guess, in a lot of ways. But I've watched it, the power of it, become such a unifying thing in my own world as well.
Yeah.
Too. So it's something that if we don't get a hold of it, it'll be something that either is behind the scenes as a silent killer of our ministry or our leadership, or
Mm-hmm.
it'll be the most fueling component of our ministry. And so I think you got
Yeah.
that choice to make.
So tell us a little bit about your family really quick. What does your dynamic look
Yeah.
like for your family?
My family got a marriage of 18 years to Jessica, my
Mhm.
wife, and we have three kids, two middle schoolers and one elementary schooler. Boy,
Mhm.
girl, girl. Got
Mhm.
Caleb, who is in eighth grade, Callie, who is in sixth grade, Kaya, who is in first grade, and they're in all things sports. And so there's all kind of competing priorities,
Yeah.
in our world right now. So
Yeah.
love my kids, love my wife, and man, I'm so thankful for them.
So let's take a minute to talk about family priority. When you do have all these competing priorities, how do you prioritize family time, family issues, family, all of those family items? How do you prioritize that when you're being pulled in so many directions? Because I know no matter what country you live in, that is an issue. We're all being pulled in so many different directions. How do you prioritize your family?
No doubt. Wherever you're at, busyness is one of our biggest priority killers, I think,
Mm,
now. And so I think it is the right word, priority. You've got to prioritize well. And
mm,
so for us and our family, communication is key.
mm.
That's something that if you don't communicate well, expectations, a lot of times there is a gap between what I expect and what I experience. And that's true for me. That's true for my kids. That's true for my wife.
Mm,
That's certainly true in ministry. That's true in leadership.
mhm.
And so, how you fill in that gap between what I expect and what I experience
Yeah.
matters a lot. And sometimes the best way to do that is fill it in with communication,
Mhm.
fill it in with honest expectation. of what I'm hoping for. And so my wife and I practically we'll sit down every Sunday before we begin the week, and we just look at the week's calendar. And she has my calendar, and she can add things to the calendar. She controls the weekends, which is a little breathing room, which can look a little different from time to time. But those are some of the ways we make sure we both know and are aware of what's coming up, but also that expectations are clear, who's picking who up. It's from the little things all the way to the big things of making the kids' games and those
Mm.
kind of things, right?
So you kind of sit in a season of life that I'm similar. You have all over the board because you have one from what, first grade to eighth grade.
That's right.
So you have a little bit of everything. But I have two young boys too, and one of the things I love is that my husband and I started listening to Andy Stanley talk about family priority from a very well beyond the years of having children.
Mm.
But he talked about having young kids, and sometimes it's just a season of no because you want to have a family priority. And that means sometimes you have to say no to fun things that are out there, opportunities that might come up for you leadership wise, or being stretched to your limits because it just might have to be a no right now because my kids are young
Yeah.
and it just needs to be a no so that I can focus on their sports or their school or their extracurricular. Have you experienced that in your life in this season?
Absolutely. Every yes you say is a no to something else.
Mm.
And that's true for our family, that's true in leadership, that's true in life. And so for us, one of the things that we've done that has helped us determine it's hard, isn't it, to know what's the right yes, what's the right no. And we've seen a lot of the wrong ones at times. So for
Mm.
us, we actually ask our kids and walk through a goal process at the end of each year
Mm.
with our kids. And so I share my personal goals with our family. Jessica does the same. Our kids do the same. Even Kaya, first
Oh, I
grade.
love that.
Hers,
So
hers,
sweet.
it can look like, I want to have my hair fixed in time for school. I mean, it's just the little simple
Yeah.
things. And we share those goals,
Mm.
and we try to let the goals drive our no's because there's power in
Wow.
the right no's. But where am I going? If I don't
Mm.
know where I'm trying to go or what I'm trying to accomplish, it's hard to know what are the right no's and yeses. So we have spiritual goals, so we can
Mm.
prioritize church as a family. We like sports, we like instruments. We got piano going on right now, So with those goals, it helps us drive the right yeses
Yeah.
and the right no's, and then balancing, supporting each family member it's a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
All those puzzle pieces have to fit together. But
Yeah. How do you see that benefit your family when you do get it right?
man, those moments where you get it right, everybody feels supported.
Mm.
Um, I see two of my kids showing up for each other, loving each other when you get those things right. When they don't even overlap, when the schedules don't even allow for mutual support, then you see the absence of those things, right? So to me, when my kids get it, that's when I know Jessica and I say we're getting something right,
Yeah.
and we've gotten it wrong way more than we've gotten it right. And
Well,
that's
how do you correct that when that happens? So what does the process look like to get back on track?
I think family priority ownership of
Mm.
mistakes is at the top of the list.
Yeah.
we try to love loud and apologize freely in our home.
Mm.
We get that wrong a lot too, and you just own it. And so for me, there have been times I can remember a time where this is a phrase that I just hold on to. Family priority was something God taught me about. I was trying to do everything. It was
Mm.
before we had kids. Before we had kids, I was a full-time construction worker, part-time in ministry as far as part-time goes. I was full-time in seminary, and I just thought I could conquer the world. And I wasn't prioritizing my marriage, so certainly wasn't ready to prioritize kids. And I ended up with shingles on my eye, and God used that time with
Mhm.
shingles. My right eye swelled shut, and I was on my back. And what God taught me in that moment was that the way I was doing the work of God was
Mm.
destroying the work of God in me.
Wow.
I was doing really good things,
Right.
really good goals, really good dreams,
Yeah.
serving the church, serving people. But I wasn't creating space for the priorities God had for my life, which number one at the top of that list should be my family.
Yeah.
At that time, it was just Jessica. Thank goodness it wasn't children yet,
Right.
so I wasn't ready for that. And so I had to own something then
Mhm.
that has, I think, trained me with my kids to create a culture of apology, a
Mm.
culture of ownership,
Mm.
where like, hey, we should have slowed down last weekend, where you see the breakdowns and the meltdowns. That's what it looks like in our house.
Mhm.
Like, where
I can
it's,
amen that.
you see the tears and like Kaya, she just
Yeah.
loses it at a football game.
Yeah.
That was, and it's because she's tired.
Yeah.
It's because we didn't create space. We didn't create
Mm.
margin. And so saying, hey, I'm sorry, we should have slowed down a little bit. Why don't this weekend, what do you want to do? You want to go swim? You
Mm,
want to go walk in the woods? Let's go do that.
mm.
Create the margin, say no to something to do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so, this is great. Family priority is great for any secular advice, right? But I wanna switch gears and talk about how does that priority influence your family's spiritual life and your
Hmm.
kids' spiritual life? What does that look like for you guys?
For us, I'll never forget what one of my seminary professors said a long time
Mm,
ago. He looked at us and he said, guys, ladies, your family is your first ministry.
mm,
And if you don't get your first ministry right, you won't have any more ministry.
mm-mm.
And I
That's
have found that to
powerful.
be so true. I have seen so many people lose their ministries, churches, because they just don't prioritize their first ministry. And so that's been a priority for me through the ups and the downs. I've gotten it right, I've gotten it wrong, but I'm thankful for how God placed people in my life that showed me that priority and pointed me to that priority. And I've had to own when I haven't owned it the way I needed to own it. And so for me in ministry, I've watched the trend.
Mm,
Whenever my family life is a priority, when our family's thriving, when I'm discipling my kids. You know, we often look to the church to disciple kids in today's world, but we look at it as we partner with families,
yeah.
partner with parents to disciple their kids. When that's happening in my home, I watch my ministry soar too.
Mm,
It's an interesting tie. If you had a graph, you could just watch it rise and fall
yeah.
together for me. And I've seen that the health of my family shows up in ministry,
Yeah.
and vice versa. It feeds off of it.
Yeah. So that you're saying the impact of your family priority impacts the effectiveness of your leadership, would you say?
I would say that
Mm,
100%,
yeah.
not only in just perception, but in reality.
Mm,
You know, people look to that. People need stability. We live
mhm.
in a world where the family structure is so
Yeah.
unstable.
Mm,
And so many people grow up without any semblance of what a real family structure could look
yeah.
like. And we look for that. I think people look to that. So the perception of that invites people into ministry or it doesn't. But I'm going to tell you deeper than that, Katie, is spiritually, it impacts what
Right.
I'm able to do in leading other people. If I'm not able to do that in my home, scripture talks about that a lot. That, you know, for a pastor, if things are not in good order at
Mhm.
home, how can I expand that into a ministry, right?
Right.
So yeah, that priority impacts
Mhm.
ministry directly.
And that's goes into our last core value is integrity. And we talk about how the first and the last core values kind of bookend all the rest, and it's intimacy with God and integrity. And in between that family priority, if you don't have that, you can't lead with integrity
Yeah.
because that's what we just talked about. The Bible calls us to lead our family and to be one together and to prioritize our family. And if we're not doing that, then we can't lead with integrity either.
Yes.
And that's the same leading, whether you're leading a business or just leading your family or leading in a ministry. I believe that family priority ties across all of those things that
Yeah.
we're doing. So even if you are in a secular business, I think it's hard to lead with integrity if we're not starting with that family priority at
So
home.
agree. We talk a
So
lot about the priorities of our life being God, family, others, and work, you know,
yeah.
those kind of things. And that's so true. I think
Hmm.
scripture calls us to that when it comes to integrity.
Yeah.
If I'm going to lead with integrity wherever I'm at, in whatever country, whatever organization, if it's church, if it's ministry, if it's in the secular business world, I need to have my faith at the top of the
Mhm.
list, my family next, and then everything else I do. But I'm going to tell you, in ministry, I've learned that a lot of times that gets muddy.
Mhm.
And so we've looked for ways to overlap those priorities. Where a lot of times we think it's got to be, you know, I'm walking with God or I'm studying the Bible. It's just family time. And so I try to, as an example, I try to be home when I'm home. Try to
Yeah.
not have the laptop out there. I work hard
Mhm.
at putting that stuff away and not doing the phone calls.
Mhm.
And there's value in that. It speaks to those priorities. But like a Sunday morning, what does that look like? You're there. You see
Yeah.
us on Sunday mornings. My whole family's there.
Mhm.
And so then for me, it's my faith. It's my calling, it's my role, it's my job, it's my
Yeah.
livelihood, and it's my family. And so we look
Lot
for ways to integrate all those pieces together because the reality is we
right.
can try to segment them, but a lot of times they overlap. And so I actually look for the overlap
Wow, that's
where
good.
how can we overlap those priorities
Mm.
where all of our worlds merge together? That's at the ball field. That's
Mhm.
on Sunday morning church days. that's at Walmart. How do we make those priorities a thing that
Mhm.
other people can see
Yeah.
in our life, but that our kids see too?
That's really good. I really like that, the overlap, looking for the
Look
overlap.
for the
I'm
overlap.
gonna take that, Kevin, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's good. I wanna talk about your staff. So how many do you have that you're leading right now at Midway? How many staff?
We have about 40 full and part time staff at Midway
Okay,
now.
so 40 is a lot to lead.
Hmm.
Obviously, leadership matters for this whole staff, but how do you see family priority affecting them? And also, how do you incorporate family priority for them?
Mm. Yeah, great question. If you don't, I watch people don't last.
Mm,
That's the bottom line of the why behind it. The what that goes with that is we're in a growing season, as you know, where
mm,
we're structuring, we're adding, ministry opportunities. And so our staff's growing, our church is growing. And so within that, it requires shifts. It
yeah.
requires priority. It requires the right yeses and the right nos. So we've tried to even shift what our structures look like to even require staff to take some time with their family at
That's
times.
good.
So we try to look for that in an individual leadership basis with all of our
Mm,
different teams. We're doing something later this fall where we're shifting what we've always done with our staff retreat and goal sharing time at the end of the year and bringing families in
okay.
for a Thanksgiving meal. Just little things like that where it shows we do value family
Yeah.
ministry. That overlap, it creates some of that overlap as well. And so we try to challenge our staff to be at the ball games. We try to create a culture of flexibility where if you need to go somewhere to make your family the priority, we work to say yes, not look for ways to say no.
Mm,
And to me, when your team knows that, they can prioritize their family in a way maybe they wouldn't have, and they'll stay longer and they'll perform better. And you
yeah.
would think, well, what about the time at the game? Are they shouldn't they have been working? They'll work better when they get back because they're
Mm,
making their family a priority.
yeah.
They're healthy internally, which leads to an external impact that just exponentially grows.
Yeah. I think that's a level of encouragement that sometimes as we work, even in ministry, we sometimes neglect and you don't think you are, but work is work. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot out of us and it takes a lot of time and demand. And then if it's not presented that we do need to prioritize family or those things could fall to the wayside. And then it eventually over time you start to see the ramifications for it. So
No
I
doubt.
think it's of utmost importance for an organization, especially in ministry, to prioritize family for
Mhm.
their employees, for their staff, for their ministry. I think, like you said, the other side of it is that they'll work harder because they are more fulfilled and they
Yeah.
are more. So I love that Midway takes time to do that. I want to talk about maybe a side that some of our listeners or viewers have, which is not a great family setup.
Mm.
So we all know that we live in a time when we talked about families broken, and we
Yeah.
come from all kinds of different places. When we say family, that might trigger some negative thoughts for some people.
No doubt.
What does it look like in you've seen probably the gamut of families
Mm.
being at the church. How do we prioritize family when somebody says, "My family's broken"?
Mm.
What
Yes.
does that look like?
I'd say if that's you, I just want you to know God sees you today.
Mhm.
Uh, God wants to show you a picture of what family can look like. I believe that with all my heart. And so, Katie, to me, that
Mhm.
that is what we try to be at Midway. Is we are a family, and that's one of the first things I'll tell a guest that comes is like,
Mm.
I believe you're going to find that Midway is just a good family. And I get all kind of looks. It's like the word family brings up, it conjures up a lot of different thoughts. And so, for somebody that has never had some of those good examples, I'd say this to you: you can learn to be that example. You can
Mm.
find that example, I believe, in churches, and ILI is a great family. I mean,
Mm.
there's just God is bringing so many good pictures in a world that's full of a lot of bad ones.
Mm.
God's brought a lot of good ones too. And once
Mm.
we find that family, and so find your family, that's what I'd say. It's out there. You've got a heavenly Father that loves you. He wants to get whatever father example you've had in your life. God's ready to be that newness that maybe you're looking for right now. And
Mm.
once we find that, Katie, I think then we can be that
Yeah.
for other people. And so in our church, we see so many broken families. So we've got
Mm.
our counseling ministry has more than doubled this last year, way
Yeah.
more than doubled. And it's all family priority based things where the family's broken.
Yeah.
But we serve a God who can put things back together when they get broken.
Mm. That's awesome. That's beautiful. And I love that doesn't have to look like what we think it should look like here on earth. God has
Yes.
God has greater plans than that. that sometimes outside of our thinking and our structures that we believe are family or what titles we've put on them.
Yep.
God can go beyond that. So I love that advice.
And when I think about broken families, God will use people that come from a brokenness where maybe
Mm,
your story is different than my story, or maybe your story is more broken in some area than mine, or mine than yours.
mm,
Because the world has such a broken family system, there's so many broken families, so many
mm.
needs in the family priority vein of ministry and life right now. When you can allow God to take you from a place of brokenness and bring beauty from the ashes, you'll be able to connect with people
Yeah.
that I couldn't connect with, or we together can connect with more people.
Hmm.
God is good at taking pain and turning it into purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what I think he wants to do in a world where the backdrop of family is very dark. It shines pretty bright
Yeah.
when we can see God bring purpose from our pain. And that's what I think God's doing right now.
And that's what I love about things like this podcast, having the space to talk about it and
Yeah.
feeling uh, okay to be vulnerable and say, I'm broken and maybe someone else is too. And we can
Hmm.
find ways to grow in knowing that God has done something amazing in your life in a broken family and share that and be open and
Yep.
be vulnerable. And like you said, find that family because when you do, God will use that to grow you
Yep.
and grow those people. And so when we talk about family priority, we are not talking about just the blood kin that is your family. This could be family might look different for you, and that's
Absolutely.
okay. God can use that.
No doubt.
In the ILI History Makers curriculum, we have something we call 6 characteristics of strong families. I'm going to read these off, and I want to ask you a little bit about
Okay.
these. So, 6 characteristics of a strong family: 1, strong commitment; 2, spending enjoyable time together; 3, good communication; 4, appreciation and affection for each other; 5, ability to solve problems and react in crisis; and 6, a shared spiritual life. So, this was some research found, and I love all 6 of them, but I feel like we each have probably a strong suit for our family, or maybe a few that we
Hmm.
are naturally more prone to. So, do any of those stand out for your family and things that you could share, tips or advice on with those 6 strong family
Sure.
characteristics?
We need all of them.
Yeah.
I think they're all so
Yeah.
good. And I can think of more weaknesses in all of them than I can strengths for sure. They challenge me. I
Yeah.
love those 6. I love this part of the ILI core values.
Mhm.
It resonates with me because we all have family and it
Yeah.
all looks different. But I'll tell you, the shared spiritual
Mm.
component of our life to me is just foundational. You'd expect that from a pastor, right? But
Is that the pastor answer?
that's the pastor, but right answer because
Yeah.
I've just seen it
Yeah.
with my own wife. I'll tie it to marriage for a moment.
Mm.
When Jessica and I are praying for and with each other, when we're praying together, not only are we staying together, I'll say this: it's hard to be mad at somebody you're praying
Yeah.
for. If I'm praying with you, it's hard to be mad. It's just brought not just a togetherness, but it's brought a foundation, I think, even for our kids. We're called to disciple our kids, to pour into them, to raise them up, to be able to do the same kind of thing. But if we can't give them that model,
Mm.
we're not going to be able to do anything beyond us generationally. But to me, that starts spiritually. If
Yeah.
you have a shared spiritual life,
Mm.
and that's to me, it's looking for the overlap. For us on Sunday mornings, my poor wife, God bless her, she's a single mom on Sunday
Yeah.
mornings. I'm up super early, and she brings the kids to church.
Kevin's preaching 2 sermons
Yep,
and
yep,
connecting and networking and all the things.
yep. So we look for that overlap. We
Yeah.
try to make it that shared experience. But then I'd say second to that is have fun together.
Yeah.
Man, life is so fast paced,
Yeah.
and we take sports so seriously. And I'll say this to you, and maybe this is for somebody out there. Maybe your kid's going to be a professional athlete. I hope so, but let them have some fun. We try to just let our kids have a good
Yeah.
time in sports. We try to laugh together a lot while we share spiritual life,
Mm.
create that overlap. And to me, the areas that I see shine the most, those things are converging, but I love all
Mm.
6. They're
Yeah.
outstanding.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about good communication too. So I know that was one of those strong characteristics you'd already mentioned and talked about. But again, just love that you've highlighted good communication and shared spiritual life and all those things because I think all 6 we could all grow in and work on, but especially when you know that some of those are your strong suit for your family, whatever your family looks like, lean into those.
Yeah.
Really try to let God use those
Yep.
to strengthen your family. I love that you mentioned that you and Jessica, the spiritual life, the prayer life, all that, because our small group just started a marriage study, and it was talking about the number one thing that will save your marriage, make your marriage thrive, and impact your family the most is just pray together every
Hmm.
day. Pray together every day, and it
Yeah.
seems too simple, yet I think in the study in the book they said only 8% of Christian couples were doing that.
Yeah.
But of those 8%, only 1% got a divorce. So it's a very high rate of
Wow.
success if you will just pray together. Shared spiritual life, I think, is probably the number one uh, uh, effect, cause and effect for a
Mm.
healthy family.
It's
So,
foundational.
yeah,
It really is. It spills over into everything
yeah,
else that we do. It really does.
yeah. Well, Kevin, I have had so much fun talking to you today. I know that so much of what you just said was some great nuggets that our listeners are going to take from. And I really do pray that people listening today or watching get to stop and think, am I making my family a priority? And if I am, or if I'm not, how is that affecting my life? And what can I do differently? And how can I lean in a little bit more? So thank y'all for listening today. I can't wait to catch up next time.